Hello. So hope you're ready for Undercover Narcotics Detective, Part 3, I believe it is. And I appreciate those of you that have watched so far. Nice comments. I'm glad someone's interested in what happens in that world. Also, I appreciate folks that have been buying my book, House Secrets, on Amazon Books. House Secrets, story about what goes on in that world and kind of based on some things that I did. Getting great reviews, so I appreciate anybody that can help out there. Seems to be a pretty good story. I got, like I said, really good ratings so far. So let's get up to speed. We started out with Ralph in the motel with the girls, and the pimp shows up, and there's a shootout, and the Mercedes gets a hole in it. That leads to him working for me. Introduction at the clubs with Kirk, the biker associate bouncer, which led to meeting lots of young ladies at the club who had connections, and then eventually made a pretty good deal with the ex-Denver Bronco when we all went out to eat together. So that kind of gets us up to speed. Now the fun really starts. So I've kind of got Kirk and some of the girls. So I've kind of got a door into the biker world. The girls make the introduction to Wingnut, biker associate again. Him and his girl. We do a really sweet operation at the parking lot, and I buy a pound of real high quality cocaine, if you remember. And turns out to be a commercial airline pilot that delivered. And now he's got to work. I think that's where we left off. So I have to put a little pressure on him. He's got all kinds of ideas how he can help himself with these high-powered attorneys that he hired. But nope, the way it works is you do some bigger deals than you did with me, and then I can present it to the prosecutor. So that's where we were. Now, after several meetings with him, he finally tells me he can hook me up with one individual in California, I think the Sacramento area. And he tells me this guy is actually a gold miner. He pans for gold, or has these troughs that he works in the creeks and streams around Paradise, Chico, and Sacramento area. And he says, that's all I can do, is I can introduce you to this guy, and it's up to you guys. See if you can do a deal. It's the best I can do. That's where I get the coke. That's all I can tell you. So he ends up hooking me up by phone. Now, we had an equipment room in Narcotics and Vice, and there's a number of landlines in there. Of course, they were registered to company names and things like that, so no one would ever trace it back to law enforcement. But ended up getting on the phone with this old dude, and he would not give me a name. Trying to think how this went. He wasn't real interested. He was a little leery, especially when I told him I wanted to start out with like 5 pounds and go to large quantities eventually. He says, no, can't do that. I take care of like 2 or 3 people, and that's all I do. I'm not doing a big deal like that. Don't want involved. So that was kind of the end of that, until the commercial airline pilot gets back on the phone with him and convinces him, I need your help. I need you to work with this guy. So I'm not sure what the airline pilot told this guy, but he gets back with me on these phone lines, and he says, I can turn you on to somebody else that might be able to help you. And that's all I can do. And I want out of it. So He says he's going to give my number, this undercover line that we have that we've been communicating on. He's going to give that number to some people, and they may or may not contact me. A couple of days go by. I'm checking the phone every day, and lo and behold, one day there's a phone message from some fellow. And he says, I understand you want to do some large quantities of cocaine. Well, he says product. Didn't want to say cocaine on the phone, I guess. Of course, we were recording these. He says, I've got plenty of product. I can get you all you want. I'm going to call back tomorrow. And he gave me a time, like 1 in the afternoon. He says, be there or the deal's off. So that was a start. California is an hour behind us. We were in Colorado. So I wasn't sure if he wanted Colorado time or California time. So I showed up at Colorado time just to make sure and just sat in the room and waited. And sure enough, 2 o'clock our time, which would be 1 o'clock in California, the phone rings. And I've got a fellow on the phone. Doesn't sound like the brightest guy in the world, but he's telling me I can do all that you might want. Who are you? Blah, blah, blah. How do I trust you? That kind of thing. And I can hear someone else in the background, another male voice, kind of guiding him as to what to say. So I'm trying to tell him that I want to do these large quantities, that I understand they have access to really high quality cocaine product, and that they might be the people that can do it. So this goes back and forth, 2 or 3 different phone calls. They want me to come to California. They want to meet face to face. That's not unusual. Well, as these deals go, once you start talking about multi-pounds of coke or meth or hundreds of pounds of marijuana, here come the feds. DEA wants to be involved. So DEA wants to have one of their people pretend to be me and meet these guys out in California. My heart just sunk because I'm working this. I'm trying to get in with bikers. My boss stood up for me and said, no, this is Freeman's deal. You guys can go away. We'll just work on it ourselves. Whatever. So we negotiated with the DEA for a day or two and finally agreed that I would try to bring these guys to Colorado. So I talked to them. First, they hedged, didn't want to do that. And I told them, look, I've got all the money in the world. My family has money. I married into money, that kind of thing. And that I'm going to fly them in. I'm going to put them up in a nice hotel. And I'm going to take care of them. And we can just talk face to face. So they actually kicked it around right then, these 2 guys. And they agreed. And they gave me a couple of names. And I bought tickets for them, round-trip ticket. So DEA did some checking, and those names didn't come back to anybody. So obviously those were phony names. No big deal. Other than they would probably have to show some ID to get on the plane. But that was their problem. They may have had phony ID. Who knows? So date and time is set. And I'm going to fly these guys in. And as we had our last couple of phone calls, the day before and the day that they're flying out, we're talking about hundreds of pounds of coke eventually. And they're telling me about parties that they've been to out on big ships, yachts, off the coast of California, where there was everything you can imagine going on. And that there were big name musicians, one in particular that attended these on a regular basis. Lots of drugs, lots of partying going I'm not going to ruin this person's reputation by giving the artist's name, but apparently he was a regular with this club. Turns out that they belong to. So I get everything set. We've talked about multi pounds. I think we agreed on a 5-pound deal the first time. We're going to do 5 pounds of coke on the first deal if we hit it off, if they trust me. So we're all set. The feds got their nose in everything, and of course they want to take credit for this stuff. They've got their stats, and that's how they get their funding, is the more stuff they're involved with, the more money they get. But that was normal. We were used to that. So they started hedging again, even after I bought the tickets. And I said, look, guys, I bought the tickets. I'm flying you out here, round trip, got you in a nice hotel, give you a good time while you're here, and we can either put this together or you can blow me off. Take a little vacation. So they finally agreed. I don't know if they're coming or not. They're telling me they can do unlimited cocaine, whatever I want. But can you come up with the money? That was their issue. You really, you know who you're messing with here? You think you can handle this? They were pretty kind of hardcore. And I'm trying to tell them, yeah, I got all the money in the world. You know, this is a big chance for me. I've got places to get rid of it, etc. So they're going to be on their way. And the last contact was, hey, how am I going to know who you guys are? And they just kind of chuckled and they said, you'll know us. We'll be the biker trash that gets off the plane. Okay. I should understand that. I should recognize that. So as I'm waiting, I've got one big concern now. I've made all these promises about how I've got all this money, and they're going to want me to prove it. So I've got to come up with something, and that's where I'm stuck, as they're basically on their way. So I get this bright idea of, well, maybe I'll start with a Mercedes like Ralph had. And I actually first thought about going to Ralph and borrowing his, but I came up with a better idea. So I'm going to wrap this up there with my idea, and it has to do with a Mercedes dealership. That was my next stop. And like I said, these guys are basically in the air as I'm scrambling to somehow show them that I've got all this money. And I've got DEA looking over my shoulder, and they're so strict, and they have guidelines that we didn't have to abide by, but when we worked with them, we did. So I've got them involved, and things never go perfect when the feds are involved. Let me just say that. Much rather just work with my unit. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you're following this story, because this is one more step going deeper into the outlaw biker world. And give me a like, subscribe if you haven't, and keep the comments coming. And please share this if you're into this stuff. And I'll try to make them entertaining. You're going to like who these fellas turn out to be and what happens while they're in Colorado Springs. See you real soon with the next video. Thanks for watching.